Talk more about that game later in the show, but let's move on to Russell Wilson and the Seahawks taking on the league's best defense in Jacksonville. Now, Jags cornerback Jalen Ramsey had some strong words about this matchup. We played it for you yesterday, and it was so good, we're going to play it again. Rack it up.
What's that record?
8-4, same as yours. Former Super Bowl champs, perennial playoff contender.
All right, we were sorry last year, but we're not this year. We ain't talking about last year. Y'all gotta stop, man. Y'all gotta stop doing that, man. In the media, y'all do that too much. Y'all be hyping people up. Y'all hype teams up. Stop doing that, man. Y'all gotta stop doing that. It's a new year. It's a new week. Everything. It's new big dogs in around the NFL. Y'all gotta stop doing that. Stop hyping people up.
Give me your line, Nick. You love the line.
Well,
we were sad last year.
We were sorry last year, but we're not this year. Stop talking about that. Why are you bringing up old stuff, random media dude?
It's some new big dogs.
It's some new big dogs around here now, man.
Sorry last year.
That is I don't use this word often. That is a sassy young man.
Oh, he's sassy.
I mean,
sassy.
He's demanding some respect.
Yeah, I like Jalen.
How worried should Russell Wilson be about this Jaguars defense?
Oh, worried now, CC.
Jenna, you think Cris Canty's big? They have a guy on Jacksonville. I mean, they say they didn't find Bigfoot, but Calais Campbell, he's the closest thing to Bigfoot
Not
in the
bigger
National Football.
Bigger than Cris Canty?
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
He'll eat him in 2 bites.
Yeah.
Bigger than Cris Canty.
Yes.
Guys, go look how big Cris Canty is. Go
I
Google
think the
it.
man is 6'8", 6'9".
Wow.
Leads the NFL. In fact,
300
he's having a career year. Came over from Arizona, Miami Hurricane. Great guy. And with all the talent they have at linebacker, they have some other rushers, and they have a brilliant secondary led by Jalen Ramsey. No, this defense is for real. Their ability not only to get to the quarterback, but their ability to create turnovers for Blake Bortles that he can trick off games and interceptions, because that's what he does. But this is a great defense. Russell Wilson should be worried. He's going to have to try to duplicate what he did last week in Seattle against Philly. He's going to do the same thing against Jacksonville.
Well, Calais Campbell, especially now with, unfortunately, Ryan Shazier's injury, he's third in league in sacks, 12.5. He's going to win Defensive Player of the Year. Like, period, point blank. This was a great acquisition.
Yes.
I mean, this was free agent money well spent. And there's a lot of things we can debate in sports and take two sides of. There are some things that are just truisms. LeBron's the best player in the NBA. Tom Brady's the greatest quarterback of all time. The Jacksonville Jaguars in 2017 have the best defense in the league. Everyone else is fighting for second place. Show them. Let's just pick some of the things they're first in. Oh, points, yards, pass yards, red zone sacks.
But just that?
I mean, first in all of those categories. Second in turnover margin. And the one thing that statistically it looks like they're not great at is rush defense. But they've had a makeover since Marcel Darius came over in the trade from Buffalo.
Yes.
They were awful against the run early in the year. They've now been quite good against the run. So I think the Jaguars... This is a weird thing. I think the Seahawks would have more success against the league's best teams than Jacksonville would. But this is a matchup game. Seattle's awful offensive line against that excellent Jacksonville front. Seattle's mediocre wide receivers against the Jags. A.J. Boye as well to go along with Jalen Ramsey. Another big free agent acquisition. I just don't see how Seattle moves the ball on Jacksonville.
Difference in this game can be kicking game. All right, let's not forget Blair Walsh for Seattle.
Right.
All right, very inconsistent. So that might be an area where we look where the Jags would have a significant edge.
If I hear you correctly, it sounds like the Jaguars are one Eli Manning shy of being one of the best teams in the league. Is that what you're saying?
One good quarterback shy.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's not what I heard. So I heard you incorrectly. Is what I heard.
I'd say Eli.
Yeah, he's not big on either.
I'm not a huge Eli fan.
Moving on to hashtag that joke went real well. Moving on to Vikings.
I'm sorry,
Sending on the 8-4.
I didn't know it was a joke.
Listen, every 4, one of them's going to be bad. Taking on the 8-4 Panthers, Case Keenum has Minnesota rolling with an 8-game win streak. Something nobody saw coming. CC, what do Cam Newton and the Panthers have to do to beat this Vikings team?
Well, Cam's got to play one of his better games. This is going to be interesting because last week the Vikings were able to shut down Julio Jones, contain him to 2 catches. So Mike Zimmer has done a great job in trying to negate, a lot like Belichick, who are your number 1 weapons and trying to prevent them from getting the ball. What does he do about Cam Newton? The Vikings have tremendous defensive speed. Got one of the better linebacking cores in the National Football League. Can they take Cam with Barr, Kendricks, their linebacker? Can they negate Cam in the run-pass option? That's what I'm looking for. Their linebackers, the Vikings, against Cam Newton. Cam's going to have to run the ball. This is almost like a playoff game for them. Whatever Cam must do, that's what he's going to do. If it's running the ball, if it's the read option, this is the type of game that they really need Cam to be able to work on all cylinders. But that offense is still marginalized unless they can make some big plays down the field.
So everyone's going to focus on Greg Olsen coming back this week for Carolina, as they should. He's their best receiving weapon. But he's not the most important player they got coming back. Their center, Ryan Khalil, is supposed to play this week after missing a bulk of time. And what we see with Cam so often is he can get away from the rush when guys are coming around the edge. He can spin out of it. He can go make plays. When that rush, when his center just gets crushed and the rush comes right at his teeth, that's where you see Cam give up, not in a bad way, but the way, just like, I got to go down. And so Ryan Khalil coming back this week is enormous. The other question is for the Panthers, I think the Saints game notwithstanding, we can rely on their defense. I know that Adam Thielen's an excellent player for Minnesota, but I think we can rely on the Panthers defense keeping them in the game. The question is, can the offense move the ball at all against an outstanding Vikings defense? They've all of a sudden been much better running the football the last quarter of the season, particularly at home, almost 250 yards per game average running the football their last couple home games. That's what they're going to have to do. They're going to have to, and like you said, Cam's going to have to be very good Cam. Mediocre Cam will get you beat. Awful Cam will get you blown out.
What about inconsistent Cam? Good week, bad week, good week, bad week. So last week he had a decent week, but the team lost. So I'm all kinds of confused who's showing up this week.
They need Cam to have a good game. One thing you mentioned with Ryan Khalil coming back, one of the most underrated Vikings, not only this year, but the last couple years, Linval Joseph, a defensive tackle. Now, he's a load. Now, Khalil, he would tell you, if I'm coming back a game, it wouldn't be against Linval Joseph. That wouldn't be the game that I would pick to come back. So a matchup as we watch going throughout the game, him trying to collapse the pocket, because we know Griffith and the outside rushers, Hunter, they will be collapsing the outside. But the integrity of the pocket, can Khalil give them that push that they need?
One thing you're mentioning, inconsistent Cam. One thing he's done well, the last 4 games, he hasn't turned the ball over. But the reason he hasn't had great games, only one great game in that stretch, is not enough big plays. Part of that is no Greg Olsen. Part of that is Devin Funchess regressing a bit. Yeah, they need a few chunk plays because it's so hard against this Vikings defense to methodically move the football.
Yeah, and it hurts them. They lost Curtis Samuels a couple weeks ago.
Right.
The young draft pick from Ohio State who didn't have the type of year that they were looking for.
All right, take a break. Coming up, Hall of Famer Isaiah Thomas tells us whether or not Lonzo Ball is a bust. That's next on First Things First.